بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وآله وأصحابه وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين. اللهم ربنا أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم أرنا حقائق الأشياء كما هي ربنا زدنا علما وعملا وإخلاصا يا رب العالمين. اللهم انصر أولياءك في غزة وفي مشارق الأرض ومغاربها. اللهم انصرهم على عدوك وعدو منك على كل شيء قدير. اللهم فرج عنا وعن إخواننا في غزة وفي مشارق الأرض ومغاربها. اللهم نفس كربنا وكربهم وثبت أقدامنا وأقدامهم وانصر والطف بنا وبهم يا أرحم الراحمين. وصل وسلم على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وآله وأصحابه وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Okay, so between nature and observer of nature, the theory, this so-called theory of matter, creates a gulf, which we described, which he is compelled to bridge over by resorting to the doubtful hypothesis of imperceptible something. Well, that's in the case of Locke. But Hume, Berkeley does away with Lockean matter. Then the question is, nature become just a bundle of things? Obviously, Berkeley has a God, but Hume is Hume is the most consistent of British empiricists. For him, there is no matter, there is no self. These are all bundles of different impressions. And that has its own problems. But between nature and the observer of nature, the theory creates gulf which he is compelled to bridge over by resorting to the doubtful hypothesis of an imperceptible something, substance or matter, which we can't see, because what we see are impressions and qualities which are caused by the substance, but we can't actually see the substance. So it always remains an inference or a hypothesis. So the hypothesis of an imperceptible something occupying an absolute space. That's in the case of Newtonian physics, like a thing in a receptacle and causing our sensation by some kind of impact. In the words of Professor Whitehead, the theory reduces one half of nature to a dream, that is subjective half, because it can be argued, and it has been argued, how we get out of our mind in the first place, if that's how we are connected with the nature, and the other half to a conjecture. Okay. So you have a subject, the object is here, the subject has a brain, and this brain is being affected by object there. He's receiving impressions, sense impression, and those sense impressions of different types. So if this is a chair, so I'm receiving impression of secondary qualities and primary qualities through different senses, and those impressions go in the mind according to theory. The mind processes them different level. So first, the process is at I guess, neurological level, and then at more conscious level, and it become a perception. Um, but the actual core of this chair, uh, which never changes, is beyond me, because I don't see any such thing according to the theory. And the chair I see is actually a construction of my brain through the impressions which I'm receiving from that object in terms of secondary and primary qualities. Um, so then question becomes what I have in my mind, and this is the object. If it has any resemblance with what is there, which I can't actually see. Um, in the case of logos, that is beyond my sensations or the excess of my senses, something metaphysical which I infer from senses. And in the case of Hume, for example, there's no such thing anyway. So there's only bundle of impressions, and that bundle is not out there in the nature, but my mind has constructed that bundle out of um, habit, repetition, association, etc. So then mind, what is in mind, in a sense, become a dream, and what is out there become a conjecture. I'm dreaming of something, I don't know whether it actually exists or not. So that's obviously it's the worst reading of worst possible reading of British empiricism, but it is a possible reading, and obviously it makes sense in terms of if you are trying to critique this conception, given what we actually experience and how the world actually is, etc. Is this what we experience actually? Is this a correct description of it? So between nature and the observer of nature, the theory creates a gulf which he is compelled to bridge over by resorting to the doubtful hypothesis of an imperceptible something occupying an absolute space like a thing in a receptacle and causing our sensation by some kind of impact. In other words, in the words of Professor Whitehead, the theory reduces one half of nature, that is subjective half, into a dream, and the other half to a conjecture. That's the substance, so that's the meta part. Let's look at the footnote. That footnote is by the editor, but I think it's a useful one. So that was from Whitehead's book, Concept of Nature. So, and this is from the editor. This is what Whitehead has called the theory of bifurcation of nature. Based on the dichotomy of simply located material bodies of Newtonian physics and the pure sensations of Hume. According to this theory, nature is split into two disparate um, or isolated parts. The one known to us through our immediate experiences of colors. What we experience is not chair, but colors, sounds, and scents, etc. And the other world of unperceived scientific entities of molecules, atoms, electron, ether, it's colorless, soundless, unscented, which so acts upon them. So this is from the perspective of physics, from the perspective of um, law, for example, that would be a substance which so acts upon the mind through impact, which so act upon the mind through impact as to produce in it the illusions of sensory experience in which it delights the mind. The theory thus divides totality of being, that is, into a reality which does not appear and is thus a mere conjecture, and appearance which are not real and so are mere dream. Not that they are not real as such, but I think there are a lot of, in this critique, there are a lot of different things are being mixed up because on the one hand, it is a critique, phenomenological critique, which says that, actual human experience, where the way we experience the world is basically lost in uh, the description of the so-called British empiricism. That's on the one hand. And then um, if we even accept that abstraction is so we can understand the world, even then, British empiricism basically divides the world into two parts, which it's hard to imagine how, not only that how they resemble our real experience, but also how we actually go from subject to object, for example, given the dichotomous relationship between subject and object. And that goes back to basic Cartesianism, really, where mind and mind and matter are totally different natures. So Whitehead outright rejects bifurcation and insists that the red glow of sunset is as much part of nature as the vibrations of molecules. That's fine, but I mean, this is no critique of physics that you abstract something for a specific purpose. So, for example, if a carpenter is making a chair, a carpenter abstracts a lot of things as well. He's not acting like an artist, for example. So that's not an objection in itself against physics, that it is an abstraction, but it is an objection if physics can't explain how we go from subject to object, for example, or if physics gets the nature of matter and the nature of the subject wrong, for example. So Whitehead outright rejects bifurcation and insists that the red glow of sunset is as much part of nature as the vibrations of molecules, and the scientist cannot dismiss the red glow as psychic addition if he is to have a coherent concept of nature. I don't think scientists scientists do this. Primarily, philosophers do that, and then scientists, because they go to same universities, they can in turn be um, influenced by that, I guess. This view of Whitehead, the eminent mathematician, is not expounded by him in 1920. That is 4 years before his appointment to the chair of philosophy at Harvard at the age of 63, was widely accepted by the philosophers. I don't know whether widely, even to this day, analytic philosophy, which is an heir to British empiricism, to a large extent, accept those views. So I don't know. And even today, um, Whitehead is a minor marginal figure in philosophy, mainstream philosophy. Anyway, Lord Richard Burton Haldane. And the other thing is the Romantic movement is also a part of modernity. Uh, um, so it's not as if Romanticism is totally opposed to Enlightenment. It just tries to, you know, tries to shore up the shortcomings of the Enlightenment. One of the leading neo-Hegelian British philosophers, said to be the first philosopher writer on theory, gave full support to Whitehead's views on bifurcation as well as on relativity in his widely read Reign of Relativity, to which Allama Iqbal refers to in Lecture 3, page 57, and tacitly also perhaps in Lecture 5. The way Lord Haldane has stated it, in his work, his defense of Whitehead's view of relativity, enunciated by him, especially in the concept of nature, as against those of Einstein, one is inclined to assume or surmise that it was perhaps reign of relativity, incidentally also at serial number 276 in the descriptive catalogue of Allama's personal library, more than any other work that Allama Iqbal that led Allama Iqbal to make an observation that Whitehead's view of relativity is likely to appeal to Muslims more than that of Einstein, in whose theory time loses its character of passage and mysteriously translates itself into utter space. I don't know what utter space. Oh, anyway, we'll see. I mean, that's. I mean, I don't know what a Muslim student will find appealing in Whitehead, but there's sort of a critique of a critique of empiricism and a critique of mechanistic physics, which appeals to people. But apart from that, there's no lasting, I think, value of Whitehead's work, as far as I know, but I might be wrong. But let's stop here and let's go back to the text first. Oh, okay. So we'll start from here, inshallah. Next time, subhanakallah wa bihamdika, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Sallallahu ta'ala ala sayyidina wa mawlana Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.